Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, I have seen the Lord, and she told them that he had said these things to her. Now, she was a part of the crew that went in the first time and didn't really go back and do what they were said. Whenever all the other women went back and said, hey, the body's missing, she stayed there crying and weeping. Then Jesus shows up and he communicates to her, this is who I am. She acknowledges who he is. And then he says, go tell them. And she goes and she communicates and she tells that I have seen the Lord. Now, here's the thing. Let me give you a little bit, this is significant, but let me give you a little bit of background on Mary. Mary was from a city that was called Magdala. And if you look, I don't know if you can see it clearly on this map, Bethany is down near Jerusalem, where it says Bethany. Just to the your left of that is Jerusalem. Way up where the red line is pointing to Magdala, that's near the Sea of Galilee, and it's not far from Nazareth. Not far from where Jesus was, not far from where he did a lot of his ministry. Now, the city, according to the Talmud, and the Talmud is like this, it's a book of rabbinical writings that kind of forms the basis for traditional Judaism. According to the rabbinical writings in the Talmud, the city of Magdala was a city that was full of prostitutes. That was the prevalent thing that was there. Prostitution. Now, because of that, a lot of people have made some assumptions about Mary. A lot of people assume that she was a prostitute. Not just because she came from the city, but also because, according to Scripture, Jesus cast 7 demons out of her. In the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse 9, it says, when Jesus arose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, as we just read, out of whom he had driven 7 demons. She went and told those who had been with him and who were mourning and weeping. And we just read about that in John. But a lot of people have drawn some assumptions about who Mary was and what she was going through just because of this verse. Because it says that 7 demons were cast out of her. And because she came from a city that was filled with prostitution. Now, some people have drawn the conclusion that the 7 demons that Jesus cast out of her, that those are the 7 deadly sins. Anybody ever heard of like the 7 deadly sins? Lots of movies made about them and all kind of stuff. You won't find a scriptural verse that kind of points to these are more deadly than any other sin. But what you will find is that they're talked about a lot just because of the human condition. And if you're not familiar with them, lust, which is sexual lust, which is why a lot of people lead to believing that, you know what, that was part of the 7 demons that were cast out of her, were these. Envy, which is kind of like jealousy. Greed, sloth, wrath, anger, pride, and then gluttony, which is just overindulgence. And a lot of people assume that, yeah, she's from this city of prostitution. And these are the 7 deadly sins. And she had 7 demons cast out of her. Therefore, they put together this thing that you won't find tied together in Scripture and say that this is what was cast out of her. And she must have been a prostitute. A lot of people think that if you read through the Scripture, you'll find a woman that comes and washes Jesus' feet with her hair and anoints him with some very expensive perfume. And even though Scripture doesn't say it was Mary Magdalene, a lot of people say that it was because prostitutes earn a lot of money. Prostitutes have a lot of perfume and accessories and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. Then you'll find people that say that the woman that was caught in adultery that was brought before Jesus, that was probably Mary Magdalene because she was caught in adultery. And, you know, the husband, if he was married, then sure, he paid for a prostitute and that was her. But nowhere in Scripture do you find that. Here's what you do find, though. That wherever or whoever or whatever Mary was dealing with that caused her to have 7 demons cast out of her, that she was probably, even if she was not a prostitute, because she came from an area where there were an abundance of prostitute and that was known for prostitution, people may have thought she was. Have you ever had someone judge you based on where you came from, where you grew up, the amount of money that your parents made? Maybe they made a lot of money, and so people thought that you were stuck up and snooty. Or maybe they didn't make any money, and people thought that you were dumb and wouldn't amount to much. wherever Mary came from, it doesn't say if she was attractive or unattractive, but if she was attractive, it's likely that people said, hey, she's a good-looking woman from that town where the prostitutes come from. Have you ever had people judge you just on what you look like? Maybe because you are attractive, maybe you aren't attractive, maybe because you're short or fat or black or white. And so people make a judgment about you just because you look a certain way, and they've been told if you look this way, then this is true about you. Now, I don't know how much money Mary made. I don't know what she was engaged in, but Scripture tells us that Jesus cast 7 demons out of her. And scripturally, if you read about people who were demon-possessed, the things that they had going on looked like severe illnesses or severe mental illness or severe addictions. Have you ever had people judge you maybe because of an illness you have or have had? Or because of an addiction that you have or have had? Or because of a lifestyle that you live that is different from theirs? And so they judge you, and they've already determined your value and your worth or lack thereof because of something that's out of your control. That's what Mary was dealing with. And this is the beautiful thing about this. That's the person who Jesus Christ, God in the flesh, said, I am going to reveal myself to after the resurrection. That's the person that I want to go and to share with others who I am.